Joyride. Stars Stephanie Shu. You might recognize her. A little Oscar nominee from last year, as well as Ashley Park, Cherry Cola, and Sabrina Wu. And it is one of those things that we supposedly don't make anymore. It's a comedy. I keep hearing that. I keep hearing how we don't make comedies the way we used to anymore. And it's currently available on iTunes with audio description. That's how I rented it and watched it. Because it's a Lionsgate film. It's probably going to end up on Stars, where it won't have audio description. And I could play that game. I've seen plenty of films on Stars. However, this one involves a trip to China, which is going to involve a lot of translating. And I actually did want to see this. So I sprung for the audio description. It's sad that I have to do that. It's sad that I know that I own a service that's going to premiere Joyride, but I can't actually count on them, so I have to circumnavigate that process. Come on, Stars. Get your shit together. Anyway, Joyride features a cast of young Asian American women who are all faced with the opportunity to return to China. Well, actually, Stephanie Shu is already there. So 3 of them are faced with the opportunity to return to China and seek out their various goals in life. We start off at the very beginning and we see 2 little girls meeting for the very first time. One of them is the daughter of an actual Asian family and Chinese family, specifically Chinese family. And the other one is a little girl who was adopted by white parents. And those white parents are so happy that there's an Asian couple in the neighborhood, which is, you kind of don't know where it's going at first because the movie sells you so much on whiteness. Very white neighborhood. I think the neighborhood is even named something like White Oaks or something like that. It's just lots of white people just wandering around. And then there's this white family with this little Asian girl who doesn't have any friends. And the parents are just so happy when there's another family in the neighborhood that looks like their daughter that they just kind of walk up and they're like, oh my God, can our kids be friends? And luckily little kids, they don't care. They're just like, yeah, let's be friends. Oh my God. We're really tiny and we don't know to hate people yet. So they become friends and they grow up and everybody is different and everybody's made different life choices. One of them is a lawyer who absolutely kills it out there, killing the game, looking at maybe getting partner. She's the token Asian, so they've sent her off to China to secure a specific transaction for their law firm. So a lot of pressure riding on her because she wants to make partner in this sea of white men. I don't even think they were white women. I just think there was a lot of white dudes. And then her. I don't even remember there being white women in that firm. I just think they're just culturally trying to sell you on this dynamic. And she enlists her best friend that we met earlier on, who is now played by Cherry Cola. And they go to China. Except Cherry Cola is basically exactly like what you would think based on her name. A lot like Awkwafina. A lot like taking Awkwafina to China with you, if you would in a film. She's kind of coming up, I'm sure, following in Awkwafina's footsteps in terms of being a female comedian. Also credited as a writer for this film. And they have to bring along her cousin, which is a character called Deadeye, played by Sabrina Wu. And while they're there, they meet up with the main girl's college roommate, who's played by Stephanie Hsu, who is becoming a Chinese movie star. I don't mean that she is Chinese and becoming a movie star. I literally mean she's becoming a movie star in China, making Chinese movies. So, yeah, and it takes place in this sort of like culturally, you know, like these girls should be having some sort of specific experience because they're returning home, and there are all these American Chinese girls returning back to the homeland, back to the motherland or whatever, for their experiences, all for various reasons. And there's a bit about Ashley Park and maybe finding out who her birth mother is, and looking into that, and getting to meet her for the first time. Does she want to do that? She did as a little girl. Does she want to as an adult? You know, that whole thing. Deadeye is really into K-pop bands, and wants to meet some of her friends who are also into K-pop bands that she only knows from being online. And I guess the other two, I don't really know what Sherry Cola wants out of life. That's the kind of the purpose of her character, is she seems to want nothing. She just kind of chills. She just kind of hangs out. And we've also got Stephanie Hsu, who's already kind of living her best life. She's got a boyfriend slash fiance, I guess, who is also a Chinese movie star, and her co-star on her current project. And she's hoping to tie the knot, and he's really into Jesus, so they have to keep some space for Jesus when they kiss, and they haven't had sex, and she has to pretend like she hasn't had sex, even though there are several jokes to how she has had tons of sex throughout her life. So she's pretending to not have had any sex. There are multiple references to her having been with 2 Jonas Brothers, and some jokes around that land in the project. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. It's a little like Girls Trip, but sort of with a different ethnicity, and then also actually having to leave the United States to have that sort of cultural identity slash I'm doing this for my job thing. Girls Trip was a lot of the same thing. It was one friend actually had something to do, and the other 3 were just kind of like, well, let's go too. Let's hang out. You know, like one friend actually is going for a purpose, and then the other 3 are like, yeah, let's do it. So it's kind of what this is. Ashley Park actually has to go to China, and then I guess Stephanie Hsu is already there, which sort of changes up the dynamic because no one was actually in New Orleans already. And then they all kind of team up and have their girls' vacation alongside this business meeting, which, you know, maybe won't land so well because of that. Maybe some crazy stuff happens, and some crazy stuff does happen. And that's why I think this movie is a great example of how the fact that we still do make these kinds of films, we just make them differently than we used to. You know, this is The Hangover, basically. I mean, this is The Hangover with women. This is the kinds of comedy that they do in this film. The guys have done this before. They're just doing it with girls now. They're doing the same crude comedy with all female casts. They've got girls shoving stuff up their butts. They've got uh, female frontal nudity instead of male frontal nudity. You know, I think everybody was shocked when like Ken Jeong fell out of a trunk and was like, "Check out my penis." Well, there's a reference to seeing a vagina in this, so did we really evolve comedy? I don't know that we did. I don't know that it's, you know, I think we think we live in this world where we're like everything is culturally woke, and so we can't have these kinds of jokes anymore. And it's like we're having them, we're just doing it with the other gender. This is like there's so many things in here where you're like, yep. There's a scene where they do drugs, too many of them, and they're too high, and some stuff happens. Where have we seen that before? You know, and they're trying to hide drugs in orifices of their bodies so as to not be caught by the police. This stuff in here it's all of this is just stuff we've seen before. There's the screw up friend, you know, idea. Well, we've seen that's not new. You know, the friend that seems like they don't have it together in life, but they're still the ride or die friend. You know, the friend that's got your back. Even though you're the strong, successful one, your best friend is not, and is sort of, you know, floundering idea. And then there's that bouncing back and forth dynamic. There's also the dynamic of friends when those two friends and then the college roommate friends, right? So the childhood friend versus the college friend concept that we've seen. And then there's sort of the fourth wheel concept, the one that doesn't really fit in. Why are they there? Because somebody made them take it along, kind of like Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover. That's what Deadeye is. So this is just a movie that's an amalgamation of things that has been done in previous crude R-rated comedies before. Comedy isn't dead. You guys just aren't looking for it. Either that or else people are like turned away by it because they're like, oh, it's not a bunch of white dudes anymore. It's like, this movie is the same thing. I was just looking at this movie the whole time going like, I've seen this before. But I think that's part of the problem. Like, I thought it was funny, but at the same time I was like, I feel like I've seen this movie 1,000 times. Like, you know, I feel like this is the same formula. And people are like, why should I watch Joyride? I was like, I don't know. Did you want to watch a version of this with Asian girls going to China? That's what makes this different. It, like, structurally is exactly the same as Girls Trip, The Hangover, and, you know, other road trip movies where you have this like Road Trip, you know? It's another film, Road Trip from back. Nobody remembers Road Trip. That movie died. I didn't need to bring that movie back. I'm so sorry. It follows the same formula. So, you show up for the cast, you show up for the talent. Although, what talent? You know, I gotta be honest, I didn't know who Sabrina Wu was before this film. I don't think I've ever seen anything with Sherry Cola, although I thought she was interesting, and I think she's a nice alternative to Awkwafina. I don't know if her career is going to take off the same way that Awkwafina's did, but it would be nice if she got more stuff to do. I think she's got a little bit of a different flavor. The voice is a little bit easier to take, but she plays roles basically the same way Awkwafina does, sort of just without that abrasive tone in her voice. Stephanie Hsu, of course, is amazing. I kind of wonder how she wandered into this project. But just good, fine. I don't care. I mean, do what you want to do. You got the Oscar nomination. It's up to you. You know, I'm sure she chose this film long before she got an Oscar nomination. So, based on how we have to shoot films and get them all wrapped up and out there for the world to see. And Ashley Park, this is a nice thing for her to add to her resume. Emily in Paris, and she's getting out there in the world. And this film feels very much like it wants a sequel. This film feels very much like it ends like begging, for Lionsgate to greenlight Joyride 2, which this movie just did not do the box office for that. But who knows? Maybe this was low budget enough that it actually somehow turned a profit. But yeah, it's basically like, hey, we could become a franchise just like the Hangover guys if you let us. Do you want more? Let us know. I thought it was fine. Yeah, it's fine. I don't know that it reinvented the wheel for me, but I thought it was a decent addition to this set of films. It has some really good jokes. It has some funny moments. It has some sort of specific moments that it can create from having this specific of a cast in this specific of a situation. There's humor that you can make because of the situation you're in. You take guys to Las Vegas, that obviously allows for a certain kind of humor. You take a bunch of Asian girls to China, that allows for very certain humor. The film also sort of has an emotional weight / gut punch to it with Ashley Park's sort of continued, am I gonna see my birth mom or not? And ultimately that decision gives the film dramatic weight that it would lack otherwise. It would just be kind of a straight rated R comedy otherwise. But it has a moment of, let's sit down and have a thought in our heads about this. But I thought it was pretty well written and well put together. I don't know that I necessarily would look at this as being any sort of like directorial achievement or anything like that. I think maybe the writing is a little bit more clever. I think that's where this stands out somewhat more, is in terms of writing. It's following a lot of the same dynamics that we've seen in other films, so I can't pat it on the back too much and say, wow, it really does this very well, because I did feel like I was watching the same film. I don't want to dismiss it all outright, because I don't know. Everything is about representation, and I don't want to say that if I was Asian American that I would have gotten more out of this film. But a lot of the jokes are universal and have absolutely nothing to do with being Asian American. I gotta be honest. A lot of the jokes about sex, about inserting things into certain places, having tattoos in weird places, have absolutely nothing to do with being Asian American. You can be any race. You can be any gender, for most of these jokes. They're universally crude jokes, and they anchor the movie more than the race of any of the characters do. So this movie is still based on the how far can we take it mentality of films that have come before it. So anybody remember Girls Trip, when she's trying to zip line from one building to the other and she ends up peeing on the crowd? It didn't matter whether or not that character was black or not, or even female. It's a crude scene. That's why it's there. It's meant to make you laugh because it's so ridiculous and over the top. But it happens to be in the movie with a black female lead cast. So could have been in the movie with anybody. Could have been in this movie. There's nothing about that type of scene that doesn't work with another cast. So yeah, that's what this is. So anyway, thought it was pretty good. So not my favorite film of the year. I think it's weird that Gold Derby is tracking this for Oscars. I just, now that I've seen it, I'm like, why is this an option? Who is putting this in their top 10 for the year for Best Picture? Like, who watched this and thought this is what Oscar voters are gonna pick? Has Gold Derby seen this film? What? It'd be like going way back and seeing The Hangover on the list. You're like, what? Why is The Hangover on here? The Hangover's not getting nominated for Best Picture. Are you crazy? You know, there could be 50 Best Picture nominees and The Hangover wouldn't be nominated for Best Picture. It's just not the type of film that Oscar voters would nominate. So, no. This is not getting any Oscar nominations this year. I'm sorry. Regardless of how Gold Derby may be suggesting it to you. It's like Flaming Hot is on there too. I'm just like, God damn it. Anyway, audio description on this is really nice. It's got like a primary narrator, and it's also got people doing the voices, the translation of the, you know, for the people who speak in Chinese throughout the film. So it's actually not that much of it. A lot of people seem to know English in this film and speak it rather well. So there's some stuff that is a little weird, but they try to explain their way out of it. There was scenes where people just showed up at places, and I was like, "How did you know to be here?" And later on, as that scene played out, there was like an answer to that question, and I was like, "Oh." But I gotta admit, for the first hit me, I was like, "This is very weird that you're here. Is this bad writing? I think this is bad." And then later on, they tried to explain their way out of it, and I was like, "Okay, I'll give you a pass." But it also involved a scene where one of the characters was Ashley Park's character that doesn't speak any Chinese, and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak any," and the guy was like, "That's okay, I speak English." It's like, oh well, that was easy. And like perfect English too, like just solid, you know, cool. Well, we don't need a whole lot of translators. This film is all about finding people to translate for Ashley Park, and turns out she doesn't really need that much of it. So, there you go. That's Joyride. I was really interested to see William Michael Redmond as one of those voices. I thought that was kind of funny because I always associate him with a certain type of sort of like action/horror movie, and he's in here like translating and being the voice for Chinese people, which is it's a choice. It's a choice for sure. But I don't know. I don't know if I would have made that choice. And he's like top 2 narrators for me. So yeah, I still don't know that I would have made that choice. To put him in there translating for not Chinese Americans, just straight up Chinese people. So anyway, Joyride, I'm giving it a B. I thought it was fine. I thought it was pretty good. So I would recommend it, especially if you like this type of film. It's doing the same thing that the other films have done before. Didn't really reinvent the wheel. It's got 4 girls who are interesting. I don't know that any of them are profoundly, like comedy is their thing, but they handle the material really well. So sometimes it's funnier to actually see people who are meant to be in comedies doing the comedies. Although in every single one of these films, we always have people who are not comedians and they still seem to be able to pull out the jokes. So it's either way. You can go either way with that. Bradley Cooper did fine in the Hangover films, and somebody like Jada Pinkett Smith, who I guess she's been in comedies, but is she known as a comedian? I don't know. She was fine in Girls Trip, so I don't really know that, Ashley Park is a great comedian, but she's fine. She did a good job here. So, anyway, thanks for watching. Please click subscribe, as usual. Click like, too. I don't get enough likes. Likes put me out there for more people who are not subscribed to me to see my videos randomly pop up in their feed. And also, you can go to my website, MacTheMovieGuy.com. You can go to X, Insta, or Threads and follow me at MacTheMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what is audio description, where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who's narrating your favorite films and television series. That's it for me today. I will review something else and see you guys on the other side.